There's going to be a debate, we think. We're not sure. It's complicated. We'll get into it. New York's hottest new club is Trump's porn star hush money trial. Everyone's showing up with their red-tied Trump costumes. It's really something. Michael Cohen's testimony seemed well prepared and genuine, but what happens now? Welcome back to the podcast. 54% of Americans who regularly vote for progress in every election and want to convince their friends and family members to join a majority. This is Majority 54.
All right, Jason. Well, we awoke to news that Biden has shaken up the this general election by saying that he's not going to go with the presidential commission debates, but that he does want to have debates with Trump, and basically tried to set the terms. Let's go to this video.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
It's actually pretty good trolling. I don't know how many people will get the joke, but it'll probably make Donald Trump mad.
So basically what they came out and said on the Biden team, the video was released in tandem with a letter from Jen O'Malley Dillon, and essentially saying they're not going to go with the traditional commission that's negotiated between, sort of luminaries in the Democratic Party and Republican Party, and that they're not going to go with the normal debate schedule. They want debates earlier in the calendar. They want 2, and they wanted rules like, you have a strict time limit, no interrupting, yada, yada, yada. We all know what happened the last time, especially in that first debate where Trump was just interrupting Biden nonstop, and also showed up apparently with COVID, and then told everybody after.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh my God, that's crazy.
So that was the last debate. Now what's interesting is the Biden team said they wanted a June debate, which is way, way earlier than there's ever been a debate. That's like very soon.
It's like pre-convention. Yeah, it's like a few weeks from now.
Yeah, that would be right after a verdict, probably.
I wonder if that's a little to do with it.
Yeah. Now, this is moving fast. So just right before we're recording, Biden announced, he says, this is what he posted on X. He said, "I've received and accepted an invitation from CNN for a debate on June 27th. Over to you, Donald. As you said, anywhere, anytime, any place." Trump told Caitlin Collins, "The answer is yes, I will accept." So we have apparently, now we'll see what happens from here. We would have a debate on June 27th. That's like when there's like primaries still going on in prior races around June, like this is earlier than I think.
Will the NBA playoffs even be over?
I don't know. It's a good question. Probably not.
I mean, that's early, man.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but the thing is that nothing is real until Trump shows up in the room. That's why Jen's letter actually ends with, if he shows, because Trump is like, I've said this before, but he is, when you were in the backyard playing like cops and robbers or whatever as a kid, and you were like, bang, bang. He's the kid who was like, oh, I can dodge bullets. And you're like, can't even play with this kid. He ruins the entire game. That's Trump. He'll just be like, oh, well, no, because they violated this rule or whatever. He'll come up with something. I would be surprised if Trump is okay with the idea that when when your time runs out, your mic cuts out, which I think is one of the conditions from Biden.
Well, I think this was a really smart move by the Biden team for a number of reasons. One was, I'm not sure they were excited to have a debate with Trump, given everything that happened last time. And so I think what they were saying was, let's set the terms now. Let's get it out there, and let's create a world where either one of 2 things happens. We don't have a debate, at which point he avoids all the nonsense that happened last time, and like Trump's sort of bullying tactics, which I think this version of Biden is not well equipped to handle all the nonsense, like just the lying and the interrupting and Lord knows what else that would happen on that stage.
I see why you would say that, because, look, he's older and everything. But on the other hand, he was completely taken by surprise last time. Last time, nobody, even though it's Trump, nobody expected Trump to employ this like methamphetamine seeming infused. I'm not saying he was on meth, but he acted like a dude who was on uppers,
Yeah.
who was just steamrolling and filibustering. And I don't think anybody expected that, including Biden. Whereas this time, Biden would go in knowing that could be the strategy.
Yeah,
So
I say that to say, like, I don't think I would handle it well either, and I'm half Biden's age. Like, how do you handle somebody who lies as much as Trump does and is willing to try to steamroll you, right? Now, what they did was, so they created this condition: either there's no debate, or there's going to be a debate, but under Biden's conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Biden could say, like, if Trump says no to the conditions, be like, you don't want to debate, right? And then people could say you're trying to duck or whatever. Be like, look, I just want to avoid what happened last time, which I think most people thought that was a joke last time. So now what's happened? Let's pretend that Trump actually follows through. Well, we've got a debate with CNN first. Great. You're gonna have time limits. Great. It's happening early. Also great, because I think if you're Biden, I think, like, if you buy into what I just said, which is this is a big wild card that you want to be careful about. Well,
Mm-hmm.
these debates are going to wrap up earlier than normal, so you'll have some time to manage whatever happens within those debates. If they're great, awesome. You use that to sort of re-energize your people. If they suck, or if it sort of reinforces some narrative about Biden's age or whatever, you have time to recover from that. More time than has ever happened before. Traditionally, these debates, if you remember the 2012 campaign, these debates matter a lot, like, in shaping perceptions, especially if you remember, Obama looked terrible against Romney in that first debate. The numbers, dipped pretty significantly, and then he came roaring back in some of those debates, and that reinforced the perception that Obama was in the driver's seat.
It's really interesting because it's one of those. It's a rare time where it is very unclear which candidate is best served by actually debating, because usually, there's a couple of different reasons why you would say it's in so and so's interest to push for a debate. Sometimes it would be that one is ahead of the other, right? That they have a nice lead. Sometimes it's that one is more of a known quantity and has more name recognition, so the other needs to get on the debate stage with them. That's where I was, like in 2016 in the Senate race. And then we had one, and it went really well for me, and then we didn't have another. I don't know why I threw that in. It was just me being proud, I guess. But my point is that in this, and then the other way it goes is that you have sometimes where one is just a way better debater than the other. And so it's like, well, of course he or she wants to debate. He's got a lot more practice at it. But in this
You
case,
must have been raring to go back
I
then.
was.
I could
I
imagine.
was.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed we only had one debate. There were 3 scheduled. But then okay, so anyway, in this case, it's like both of them have been president. Both of them are older. Both of them pretty much know what they want to say, but the polls are pretty much dead even. And there's all these variables with, other third-party candidates and everything, that I think what happens is neither side can decipher who is more advantaged or disadvantaged by having a debate, and it just becomes, screw it, let's just debate. Let's go see what happens.
I honestly think the American people are the winners here, because I don't look, like, I obviously am a fan of Biden. I'm going to vote for him, and I think he's been a really good president. I don't think there's a lot of people out there who are asking for either of these people to be on a debate stage any longer than is necessary. I don't think it's either of their
Yeah.
strengths at where they are at this point, and I'm not saying they're equivalent. Like, I would much rather listen to an hour of Biden than an hour of Trump, but neither of them were at the edge of our seats. Like, in a way, if you think about, like, Romney versus Obama, I mean, it's crazy to think about. Like, just like
this ain't Ollie Frazier.
this is not Ollie Frazier. It's not even Gore Bush, like, this is a tough one. And I think it'll be in everybody's interest to get this out of the way as early as possible.
I think that's right. And I think the other element here is they're worried about voting. They want to make sure that early voters see which means there is some level of confidence by the Biden campaign in doing this. It's also worth pointing out that there's really nothing to be gained usually by the so-and-so is ducking debating me. You don't
Yeah.
really go anywhere. Okay, so we keep putting this image on the screen. Is this new? Did this just break that there's a second debate agreed to?
Yeah, that's the other news now. Yeah, so in September, so September 10th. So it seems like that'll be the last debate in September. That means it's like 3 months or
Mhm.
2 months to between the debate and the election, which is more than ever. It has to be, right?
And which I think matters because I would assume that it's the late deciding undecided voters who usually I would imagine are somewhat influenced by the debates, and I can't imagine they're voting really early if they're late deciding. So
Yeah. Well, part of the speculation is that Trump's team has been way more aggressive in pushing the early vote message. So part of that they're kind of excited about this. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is it hasn't exactly been a great week for Team Biden between sort of everything going on with the announcement that they were going to at least delay or pause the weapons shipment to Israel, and then turning around and I mean, I guess flipping on that. It's hard to say exactly what happened there. Plus the bad polling that came out over the weekend, the narrative was starting to shift. So I can imagine that the White House maybe was sitting on this and was like, all right, if we have a particularly rough week going on, we're just going to change the narrative, which kudos to them. I think this actually is leading the news.
to me, the most interesting part of all this is the revelation that there's actually been some back channeling between the two campaigns to get to this point. Because I know that that is obviously traditionally a normal part of campaigns, presidential or otherwise. I mean, on my
Right.
campaigns, whether it was the candidate to the candidate, which wouldn't be a back channel, or as the campaigns got bigger, more often back channels, just sort of people who kept in touch for sometimes there's misunderstandings that are very personal, and you reach out for all sorts of reasons. I did not imagine that is happening here because this, as you said, this is not Obama versus Romney. This is not, we are a couple of patriots who believe in America and just have different directions for it to go. This is, and I'm going to say good versus evil because obviously I feel like it's good versus evil, but I'm saying that less as Biden is good and Trump is not good, although that's how I feel. I'm saying that because I think that's how both sides feel.
Yeah.
That's what the Trump people believe about us. That is what we believe about the Trump political operation. And so the fact that they are managing to have conversations about this says two things to me. One, I'm amazed, and it must be some of the most, like, I don't know if it's the compliance people who are doing it's the least invested people in the campaign. And two, that both sides really cannot put a finger on whether debating is good or bad for them because they're able to talk to the other side about it.
Yeah, I think
I'm talking like, I don't even feel like I'm exaggerating when I'm saying there is nearly a Hamas and Israeli wartime government sort of animosity between these two folks. And so I guess we shouldn't be surprised because they're talking, but I would imagine it's a similar vibe is my point.
Yeah, honestly, I'm less surprised that Israel and Hamas had some kind of back channel than
Right. They
than-
have to talk.
Yeah.
Right. It actually kind of shocked me.
It's probably somebody like Scaramucci, like somebody
You
who's
think
like
it's good
somebody
point.
like that. Like somebody who kind of came out of that world, but still is like respectable in sort of like the pitch book conference type of thing.
No, that's a great
Davos.
point. Like a
I wouldn't.
liaison who's like, I'm not on your side anymore, but we used to share an office. So
Yeah, even Conway,
personally, you and I are
Kellyanne
kind of
Conway.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like somebody like that. Well, okay.
Interesting.
GOP leaders have been flocking to the great island of Manhattan, Jason, over the past week Let's take a look at this just bizarre supercut of the rank and file GOP leaders paying homage to their dear leader.
The system is using all the tools at its disposal right now to punish one president and provide cover for another.
It's a crime in this country to use the court system to go after your political opponents.
Michael Cohen is the prosecution's star witness. This guy is a convicted felon who admitted in his testimony that he secretly recorded his former employer.
I'm sitting there listening to a guy on the stand that they had to get out of house arrest because he lied in another court to testify in this court.
He lied to Congress, he lied to the IRS, he lied to federal election officials. Even Cohen's own lawyer testified to a grand jury that he is not reliable.
We will have a landslide of historic proportion this November if every American understands the injustice that's playing out in that courtroom today.
The DA comes in and he acts like it is his Super Bowl. And I guess it is, to be noticed.
Here you have a made up charge for something that's not even within his jurisdiction. That the FEC has said that there is no crime, that the DOJ has said there is no crime.
That's my congresswoman from Staten Island, by the way, that last one. But for folks who are just getting the audio, you heard from Tommy Tuberville, J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, and the Speaker Johnson. At least one of those guys is auditioning for vice president, Jason.
Yeah, Mike Johnson seemed, I'll be honest, he didn't seem like his heart was in it.
Yeah.
Mike Johnson doesn't strike me as a fella who is just dying to go sit in the courtroom and watch a trial about hush money paid to a porn star. The others were really eager to be there and to show out. I mean, J.D. Vance, especially our friend J.D. Vance, who our friend meaning a guy we really don't like.
I think he's going to be the VP. That's my
I do
current-
too.
Yeah.
I do too. But I think all things being equal, I think that's right. But on paper, it sure makes a lot of sense for Trump to find a woman, and so I think he will try really hard to do that. But I think Trump is, and we can come back to this sycophant parade in a moment. So let's just focus on the one sycophant for a second. I think Trump's favorite thing seems to be people who were opposed to him but have gone down on bended knee enthusiastically, because it's sort of like, you trust the horse that you broke yourself. And so that's where he's at. He's like, I know I own this dude 100%. And this guy clearly has no backbone at all because of where Vance came from and where he ended up. And so I agree with that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, like, it's, to me, the saddest part, and those listening on audio couldn't see it, but is Ramaswamy and the other two goofballs, maybe three goofballs, who are literally like it's Halloween, or like they're wearing, it's like they wore Trump's jersey to the trial. Like they showed up in a bright red tie that's too long. I mean, they are dressed as Trump, all four of them standing there. And that's interesting. I mean, that is political fandom. That is really like showing up wearing a Trump jersey. And I just am like, man, that is so sad. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what they're trying to set up here. Like, there's the personal goals of the people who showed up, and then there's the Trump campaign and Trump team goals here. And obviously the personal goals are what they are. All those people want vice president, ambassadorship, whatever. What the Trump team wants is, I think they're like, look, there's a very good chance we're going to get a guilty verdict here. We have to at least seem like we're playing offense on this and saying like, oh, this is just liberal overreach, et cetera, which is what I think they're setting up. And, you and I ahead of January 6th were saying, we were kind of saying things like, look, like, if these people truly believe what they believe, we need to watch out, like something major is going to happen. And I think here we should probably be, pretty clear-eyed about what Trump is going to try to ask of his supporters in if there is a guilty verdict, and I think it get very ugly very fast.
Well, this is all about requiring fealty and loyalty. Yes, especially given the fact that they figure once there is a guilty verdict or just the entire spectacle of the trial, it's gonna hurt you if you're Trump. I mean, it ain't gonna help. Like, as I've said before, nobody on the Trump campaign, for as much as they like to pretend and like to have the New York Times have hot takes about the idea that it somehow is helping Trump, nobody was like, let's spend 8 weeks in a city we will overwhelmingly lose once we've already wrapped up the nomination. They know it's going to weaken them. And what happens next, usually for a presidential candidate who's been weakened? Candidates at the down ballot tend to want to distance themselves politically. So pull them in close, pull them in as closely as possible, vest them in you, make them pot committed to you so that it is impossible for them to pull away.
Right. Well, Mitt Romney was asked about this pilgrimage. Let's go to that clip.
What do you think about these people? Republicans going to the courthouse in Manhattan with the red ties and the dark suits and saying the case is bogus?
I think it's a little demeaning to show up in front of a courthouse, and particularly one where we're talking about an allegation of paying a porn star. It's really very difficult to watch.
Why is it difficult to watch?
Well, there's a level of dignity and decorum that you expect of people who are running for the highest station in the land, and going out and prostrating themselves in front of the public to try and apparently curry favor with the person who's our nominee is a little embarrassing.
Thanks, Senator.
Can we talk about Mitt Romney for a minute?
Look, I'm here for it right now. I appreciate it, the way he's going out,
Yeah, I mean, it's the way he's going out. You can't look at him and say this is the way he's always been necessarily, because, while on the one hand, I think Romney said some brave things. Looking back, as we've said on here, he was right. You were wrong about Russia 12 years ago. There are things like that. And on the other hand, Romney has always been a politician's politician. He was on both sides of the choice issue. I mean, he's been a governor and a senator from 2 different states, which is both impressive and kind of squirrely. But on the other hand, look at people like Pence, who are just sort of like, I'm out of it. I'll say a critical thing here and there, but I'd rather not have anybody bother me. I'll say a thing or two and then I'll go back into my hole. Romney is like YOLO, man. Like, I'm on my way out. And I don't, and that right there is as rough as Romney gets on somebody. I mean, you could just tell that in private, Romney is not a dude who walks around, dropping F-bombs and MFing people. He's just not doing that in private. Other politicians are. Other politicians who are much more genteel and like Joe Biden clearly is, okay? And I'm not faulting him. Like, that's more how I am. But when Romney is like, there's not much dignity there. That's like a Mitt Romney burn. And I just wanted to say it's quaint and it's cute, and it just makes me long for a different time.
Yeah, I mean, remember the world where he was the big bad?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just wild how far we've come.
I'm not going to name names, but I was texting with a former rival the other day, meaning somebody a Republican who I've run against before, which I know narrows it down a bit, but I'm not going to, well, you know what? I'm going to stop right there because I don't want to, I like this person and I don't want to get in any trouble. All I'll say is that, that Democrats are not the only people who look at our politics and say things could be better.
Yeah.
The nature and the discourse of our politics.
Well, we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to talk about Michael Cohen's testimony on the Hill, as well as some just general like what are like a indication of like what's happening in this race. There's a lot of actual like substantive stuff happening beneath the surface, especially economically, that I think is going to have a huge bearing on what plays out in November. All of that and more when we come back.
Typical children's vitamins are basically candy in disguise, filled with 2 teaspoons of sugar, unhealthy chemicals, and other gummy junk growing kids should never eat. That's why Hiya was created, the pediatrician-approved superpowered chewable vitamin. While most children's vitamins are filled with 5 grams of sugar and can contribute to a variety of health issues, Hiya is made with 0 sugar and 0 gummy junk, yet it tastes great and it's perfect for picky eaters. Hiya fills in the most common gaps in modern children's diets to provide the full body nourishment our kids need with a yummy taste they love. Formulated with the help of nutritional experts, Hiya is pressed with a blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies, then supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, folate, and many others to help support immunity, energy, brain function, mood, concentration, teeth, bones, and more. It's non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, gelatin-free, nut-free, and everything else you can imagine. Hiya is designed for kids of all ages and sent straight to your door so parents have one less thing to worry about. It's also fun to say, Hiya. As you know, I'm a father, and I'm always on the lookout for the best possible vitamins for my child to take. I'm so happy I've come across Hiya Health. The ingredients are amazing, and I don't have to worry about sugar or gummy junk because Hiya Health is made without that stuff, and it's still able to keep that great taste. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/majority. This deal is not available on the regular website, so go to hiyahealth.com/majority and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults.
This episode is sponsored by Rhone. If you're like me, you understand the pains of finding what to wear. Most clothes are uncomfortable. They may be too tight. They never, actually fit your size because, a lot of us are not exactly small, medium, large, extra large. We're complicated. Sometimes when you find something you like, you can only wear it for a few hours before that important meeting or dinner, and then you have to change it into something else. And everyone wants to dress their best. You want to look good at all times. And frankly, it's a confidence booster. So here's the deal. Men's closets were due for a radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. Rhone's commuter collection is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible set of products known to man, and here's why. Rhone helps you get ready for any occasion with the commuter collection, which offers the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, and polos. You never have to worry about what to wear when you have the Rhone commuter collection. And here's some anecdote. I'm wearing my Rhone pants right now. And last week I was at a wedding. I wore my Rhone button-down shirt to the wedding at a formal wedding, and I will also wear it tomorrow when I just go into a coffee shop to have a meeting. It's that versatile. So it's time to feel confident without the hassle. With Rhone's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the products. It's that easy. Yeah, I actually not so neatly folded that shirt in my bag for the wedding, and I was able to take it out, and automatically I was able to put it on. It looked like I had ironed it, but I didn't. It's an inside secret between us. So with Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll also be smelling fresh and clean all day. On top of that, Rhone is 100% machine washable, so you can dish the dry cleaner all together. We're on the move a lot, and the Rhone commuter collection has never let me down. The versatility and overall comfort of the collection is undefeated. I absolutely love it. And even after I wear it all day, I feel super fresh because that Gold Fusion anti-odor technology. At that wedding, I was dancing up a storm, wore it, no problems. So the commuter collection can get you through any work day and straight into whatever comes next. So head to Rhone.com/majority and use the promo code majority to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/majority and use the code majority. It's time to find your corner office comfort. All right, big news in this trial in New York. Michael Cohen has testified, and he was under direct examination earlier this week and then cross-examination yesterday by Trump's team. And it seems like it got pretty feisty.
Yeah, it's weird to follow this because we're not in the courtroom. So it's constantly like, secondhand, and then you can end up, you read the quotes, and then you'll have some people say, "Oh, it was very damaging to the defense," and then other people say it was not as good for the prosecution as they like. And I guess we should also put the disclaimer here that though I don't think either of us have ever met Michael Cohen, he does also have a podcast on the Midas Network, where we have our podcast. So I guess in a way we are affiliated with him. So being, good that. But it must have been a really interesting scene. I think not probably as interesting as Stormy Daniels showing up. Probably not as interesting. But I have to imagine that the vibe was, or at least the vibe the prosecution was going for and that Cohen was going for, which I think is a true one, is this dude has nothing to lose. He has, they're going for the idea of he has no reason to lie. And the defense is trying to demonstrate, well, actually, he's built a career off of this.
Yeah. And, as expected, the, Blanche, Trump's lawyer, was going through with Cohen, like all the sort of back and forth and attacks that he's had with Trump to try to go to motive for his testimony. What's interesting is Blanche didn't stop there. He got it with Cohen over Cohen's tweets about Blanche, which I thought was a bit of an error just on the surface of it. Like, as the lawyer, as the defense attorney, I'm not sure you want to drag yourself into that part of it. Because it makes you look almost petty too,
It depends. I think it depends on how it's handled, and it depends on the vibe in the courtroom. Because what we don't know is how Blanche has come off to the jury. So, a quick sidebar story. Here's an error I made in a trial back in my not long but interesting and occasionally successful, occasionally unsuccessful career as a trial lawyer. I had a case. It was a civil case where we were suing the railroad on behalf of a railroader who had been injured, and we were in Springfield, Missouri. Springfield, Missouri, a jury in Springfield, Missouri is. I used to joke that it's like picking a jury out of a Sarah Palin rally, but that's a really old reference now. But I think what would be more accurate and relatable is it was like going to a corporate conference and picking a jury. It's just very corporate. And so it was very hard to, coming from Kansas City, really build rapport with that jury, even though I thought we had the facts on our side. And so there were two things that happened in that trial that, and I'll get around to how it relates here. One was one of our claims was that the injuries to our client had caused this thing called loss of consortium. And loss of consortium is a fancy way of saying because of his physical injuries, he was no longer able to be intimate with his wife, except in a very specific and compromised way. And in order to get that into the record, I was second chair in the trial, and it was my job to put his wife on the stand and have her talk about the very complicated way that this has to happen. And in retrospect, I was a young, hard-charging lawyer, and I didn't really think about how conservative the jury would be in the sense of not wanting to even have this subject discussed in the room, and that they might have accepted this idea without it having to go into detail. And I, as a lawyer, then, and I thought I was a folksy, charming lawyer, but I really turned off this jury. And here I was representing the victim, and they decided they didn't like me because in their mind, I made this my client's wife talk about these private things in an open courtroom, is how they saw it. So at that point, they didn't like me. And I thought that they didn't like the other attorney because even though she lived in Springfield, she was from Wisconsin. She was from the upper Midwest. She had that sort of more nasally upper Midwest accent. And we were down in Springfield where there's people who listen to the show and think I have a Southern accent. And those people have never been to Springfield. So I thought, well, I really got a leg up here. But she had a back problem, the other attorney. And there was a little lip in the carpet in the middle of the courtroom. And at one point, she tripped over it. And the jury saw her in really immense pain and trying to get through the rest of the trial. And so what I'm saying is there are things that actually happen in a courtroom that you can't read.
Did you lose, by the way? Did you lose that trial?
We lost. We lost that trial.
Cool.
And which was really sad for our client because, because if you're a railroad worker, there's no work comp. This is the only way you can be made whole. Anyway, so it was really terrible. But my point is, there's all sorts of things that happen in a courtroom, from body language to how people feel about the lawyers, that you can't see on the page. So we don't know what Blanche could be and this is a big sidebar, but I think it's interesting. Blanche, for all we know, like the jury is like, we don't like your client, but they might like him. And so it might be an effective way of, if they like him a little bit, of making Cohen less likable. And it might go to the idea of like, this person is unhinged. This person is just, spraying, bile at everybody. That may be the strategy there. Or you may be right. It may just be he got his ego in the way, and it could be a big error on his part.
Well, yeah, my general feeling is I almost round down every piece of reporting that I get about this trial, because most of the people reporting on this trial want to see Trump found guilty. So I think like we
Right.
experience everything through the prism of that hope, just like everything else that's happened around the legal news with Trump. Well, okay. One other piece of news here, just very quickly. We just got some inflation data earlier today, and U.S. inflation eased in April, and the sort of key measure of price pressures has slowed to its lowest level since 2021. The markets have reacted to this, et cetera. I mention this only because it was looking dicey for a little while, and it still may get dicey again. We've been through so many ups and downs of this, but I think so much of this election could turn on whether people feel like we're truly in recovery or not, or whether we have gone into recession territory. And at least this news is a mark in the favor of potentially this like so-called soft landing that we've told is possible.
Yeah. As we've talked about on here before, I don't think we're going to get to an economic place before November where the majority of voters are going to feel great about the economy. That doesn't mean that the economy isn't, that there are not all sorts of great indicators. There are, but because of the structure of our economy, sort of on a permanent basis, and income inequality being what it is, it's just very hard to get to that point. We talked about this a few episodes ago, that the average person who we want to be most persuaded by this, things haven't changed enough for them to feel that way. So what we have to avoid politically is things feeling like they're going the wrong direction between now and November. And what we, I think, can most hope for, ideally, is for there to be a slight feeling that things are going in the right direction. I don't think we're going to get to a point, and this doesn't mean the economy isn't doing a lot of great things. It's just the sort of the feel of the economy for the average voter. Where we want it to be is a sense of hope and optimism, because I think it's going to be too much to hope for there to be a sense of everything is going great, so I don't want to change, because I don't see us going that direction. So, all right, for our last segment, I am going to introduce something new that we will do occasionally. I have not come up with a better name, so I'm going to call this segment "Fighting with People on the Internet is Dumb, but Sometimes I Do It Anyway." And, folks who listen or watch the show and follow me on social media may have noticed that I am not on Twitter anywhere. I'm not going to call it X. I'm not on Twitter anywhere near as often as I used to be. It's not in any way a rewarding place for the most part. And I used to spend too much time there. But I do go on there occasionally, and I do see things. And so I thought maybe more often I'll talk about some of the ridiculous exchanges I get in that I shouldn't get into. There's this woman, Valentina something Gomez, I think, running for my old job in Missouri, Secretary of State. She is a Republican running in the primary. She is a young woman. She went to college and then got her MBA, and I think pretty quickly went right into becoming like a right-wing political internet person. I have no idea if she has any chance to win. I've mostly tried to ignore her. But then somebody sent me this clip the other day. It's a very short clip that she put up on the internet. Let's just play it.
So she's running, and she said, "What about gay people?"
Okay, she's jogging down the street, and she's wearing a weighted vest. Look, it's a very sort of military cosplay thing. And what she said is, in America, you can be anything you want to be, so don't be weak and gay. Stay effing hard. She didn't say effing. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I guess, and it sounds weird to just be like, let's put up my tweet, but let's put up my tweet. See if we can put it up. Either way, I remember what I said. The argument that, okay, it's so refreshing to see a female GOP candidate who never served in the military doing the whole veteran cosplay, stolen valor, bigotry as a substitute for strength routine as well as any man. Because I just thought it's notable that, I mean, she's wearing this, black weighted vest. It's made to look like body armor. It is got the American flag on it. Now, you and I are enthusiasts about the Murph workout. We both own weighted vests. We've both done running with weighted vests. So I'm not just talking about this clip. I am a little bit talking about this clip because it is quite clearly, for instance, with her saying "stay hard," which is the David Goggins motto, it is quite clearly her just imitating David Goggins, former Navy SEAL, who makes videos like this, but he doesn't make political points. He's just trying to motivate people to, it's like life advice and fitness and that kind of thing. But if you look at the rest of her stuff, it's all draped in the American flag, guns, 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 patriotism, etc. And so that's why I said this. I think it's notable that now we have women doing the pretend warrior thing. Her response, which I think we might also have, her response was to me, I serve Jesus Christ and the people of Missouri. Okay, she doesn't hold office, but I guess the Jesus Christ thing, I suppose I can't argue with, other than maybe the things she says. She says, my brother is a current service member and the vest is to make my runs harder. You should probably get one too, since you suck at baseball. Okay, not aware that she's attended any Hustlers games, but we'll just let it go.
I have great team.
Yeah, you've been to a couple. And you're not going to come on here and defend what kind of amateur 43-year-old baseball player I am. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, I could have, if there had been an opportunity before she replied for me to put money down on what at least one portion of her response, if she responded, would be, I put money down on I have a relative in the military. This is a very standard response. I've had this response from Josh Hawley, from all sorts of people, which is why I replied, if we can put it back up, with my brother is an engineer, but I don't make that my entire personality. And then I went on to say some other things. So I just wanted to throw this out there that I think it is an interesting sort of step forward, I guess, that now women in the GOP are also in an equal sort of way pretending to have served the country and pretending to be grizzled veterans when they've not. It's also still notable that I think she's in her 20s. If she wants to serve, like, go see a recruiter. So anyway.
Yeah, I wonder what your boy Harrison Butker thinks about that. That reference was for all you Kansas City people out there listening. I love you all.
No, you should explain this. This is politics and sports. Go ahead.
I don't even know exactly what he said. Because
I can tell you, I watched it.
So the kicker for
for
Kansas City said something extremely sexist, I think, at a commencement address. And something anti-gay as well.
Yeah. Yep. No, that pretty well sums it up. He said a bunch of stuff about, he's talking to a graduating class, and he talked about how the women in the audience, that they should aspire to, Jeremy, our producer, said, no, he's my fantasy guy. He's on my fantasy team, to be homemakers. He talked about he basically said that the fact that there's a Pride Month meant, it's standard stuff you'd expect from these sort of folks who believe this kind of thing. And here's what I will say about that, Robbie. Much like what you have said to me whenever I've tried to bring up the Bills after they lose, and I texted this to you, you sent this to me, you have said, I will not be acknowledging this happening. And I'm a Chiefs fan. Butker is a very good player. He's a man in his, I believe, 20s who has plenty of time left in his life to, maybe think other things. And so I'm just not going to be acknowledging this information. I clearly, Harrison Butker, the person, I disagree with. I have no problem saying what he said is awful. And I have, I'm not surprised that Benedictine College had him as the as the commencement speaker. I'm not sure that if they'd known what he was going to say that they would have had him. But during games, this is not something I will be thinking about.
Yeah, I went through this with Cole Beasley. It's not a
Mhm.
fun experience. You know, Cole Beasley was a wide receiver for the Bills. He's no longer with the Bills, but he said a lot of crazy stuff during the pandemic, and I'm just glad I don't have to deal with him anymore. Okay, one for us. I have a story. So yesterday, I think this was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday did a tennis lesson, and it was like a volley lesson, you know, like where, you know, your wife is very into tennis now.
Mhm.
It's like when you're close to the net and the ball's kind of coming at your head. So it's like very much reaction. I spent like an hour doing that. And then I'm walking home, and on one side of where I live is the Brooklyn School of the Arts, which is beautiful and like it's kind of a peaceful side of the street. And then the other side of my building is at Atlantic Avenue, where there's just a lot of activity and often sometimes people who are not, you know, well, shall I say, on that side of the street. So I'm walking home, and I grew up in New York, and you almost get a sixth sense for these kinds of things the longer you're in New York. And I'm walking down the street, uh, approaching my building, and this guy's coming in my direction, and just something tells me something's not right with this guy. And he's walking towards me, and he's getting closer, and it's like one of those things where the sidewalk is pretty wide, and he's like slightly angling towards me. And there's been a lot of things in the news lately of people getting hit, like Steve Buscemi got punched in the face last week in New York. It just happens, right? So I'm just like one corner of my eye. I'm like, I'm not going to alter my path because that may make it worse. I'm just going to walk, but I'm going to be ready for anything. This guy, as he's walking up to me, does that like hakalungi noise.
Oh, gosh.
I hear him do it. And so I'm on like high alert. Now, remember, I'm coming from the tennis lesson, right?
Uh-huh.
Where I did the volleys. He goes to spit right into my face,
Oh my
but
God.
like a volley coming at me in the tennis match, I did like almost like a Floyd Mayweather back, and it went right past my head. And he looked at me like almost like a much respect look. He was like, he couldn't believe I ducked it, and he just kept going. And I was like, this is a moment where I'm proud to have grown up in New York. It was only possible. There's like 7 things that needed to happen for that
Oh my
interaction to go the way
God.
that it did. And I honestly just smiled. And the other thing was I went back and I smiled at him almost as if like you thought you had me.
Dude, I cannot top that. I would have caught the loogie in the face as a dude from the middle of the country. I would not have seen that coming. That is wow, that is
I'm proud of
different.
me, Jason, for that
I'm
one.
proud of you, and also like, wow, okay. We live in just such different places. Okay. Well, that's a great story. I'm gonna do a quick grab and or, which as some people who listen to the show know, on my website, you can click a link at jasonkander.com and you can send me an email. And occasionally I get folks who recommend a grab and or. And so I'm going to read this quick paragraph about this thing, and we'll put this link in the show notes. It's interesting. As people know, I care a lot about getting people who help the United States and help the fight for democracy out of Afghanistan, who are in danger from the Taliban. And I've promoted that a lot on here. But here's something a little different and interesting for the animal lovers out there. Cobble Small Animal Rescue is run by Charlotte Maxwell Jones from Tennessee. It started in 2019. They're the only 24-hour animal rescue veterinary clinic in Afghanistan. Charlotte is organizing a massive animal airlift to the U.S. at the end of the month. It'll include 90 cats and 160 dogs that all have secured placement with adopters or foster-based rescues throughout the country. Their shelter in Kabul is overflowing, and lowering their population is the only way they can survive as a clinic, shelter, and sanctuary for the animals that need it most. They need to meet their fundraiser goals to make this happen. So the link in the show notes. I just thought that was interesting and different, and I would encourage people to check it out. Please, if you want to see more of me occasionally fighting with people on the internet that should night with, you can follow me wherever at Jason Kander. You can follow Ravi at Ravi M. Gupta. Please leave a 5-star review. It helps people find the show. Thank you to the Meidas Mighty. And remember, we all have a platform. Make sure to use yours today.